Hello everyone, my name is Matthew Phillips, and this is my critical assignment video presentation for risk communication. What I chose to do for this assignment was I actually chose to look at a theory, and the theory that I chose to examine was social network contagion theory. When I think of risk communication, I think about the ability of a practitioner to be able to communicate to a large number of people at one time. A lot of the risks that we looked at throughout the semester dealt with things that had a wide net. So anytime we looked at an environmental risk, there were typically at minimum at least 1,000 or so people in a town that would be affected by that risk. And in the growing age of technology, I thought that it would be interesting to examine what type of research has been done and what type of research can be done regarding social network contagion theory as it applies specifically to social networking online. And so we were talking about things like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, things like that. Now, there are a couple of interesting points that I came across during my research that I'd like to share with you guys. The first is that the type of research necessary to succinctly conduct social network contagion theory research requires a process that seems a little bit cumbersome and somewhat unreliable, but actually I found through my reading that it's a really good process for any type of study such as this. The type of study that I'm talking about is that of snowball sampling. So the best way to determine whether or not individuals are engaging in networks that are typical of that of social networking theory is to find a risk, find something that's going on, and then go and conduct interviews or send out questionnaires. And they're at the end of the interviews or as part of the questionnaire, you then ask the respondent to indicate who they communicated with, what they communicated about. And from there, you continue down this line of succession for interviews, and you look at the ramifications of a network of people communicating and how their responses to a risk or a crisis actually mirror one another. And so I found snowball sampling to be a rather reliable form of sampling and data collection. Now, more hands-on to the elements of my literature review that I'd like to share with you guys. The first one is the 2003 study. It was done by a man named Rob Scherer, and essentially what he found was that individuals, whenever they share excessive information, their responses are likely to mirror each other. However, the interesting part is that it's been difficult in all of the research done from 2003 to this day to determine cause and effect. So it's tough to determine whether or not individuals create networks based on geographical information. So I could create a network with my neighbors on the same block as me, and then we share information, and our responses then mirror one another because of the information that we shared. That's one possibility. Another possibility is that I create a network because I already have certain views that are the same as people around me, and then our responses to a risk or a crisis would be similar, and that's already been predetermined because that's why I formed that network. That's why I joined that network. So ultimately, if the second scenario that I discussed is the more likely scenario in terms of this cause and effect analysis, then it would mean that social network contagion theory doesn't have nearly as much impact as certain research suggests. However, I don't completely buy into this idea that people create networks with pre-existing notions and then find people to fit those notions. I actually think that society can at times be a lot more diverse than that, and I think that ultimately people form networks based on convenience. So you form networks with those people that you go to school with, you form networks with those at the same church as you, local communities, things like that. And I think it's far more likely that once those networks are formed based on geography or things of that nature, information is shared, and then individuals have responses that mirror one another based on the information that's been shared, not based on pre-existing notions. Now, where social media really comes into play for my analysis was the fact that there's sort of a catch-22 in regards to social media as it pertains to social networking contagion theory, and that's that there's just so much news and information available that it's difficult to determine whenever respondents had a reaction to a news story, whether or not their reaction was similar to members in their network because of information that they all collectively shared or because of information that they were receiving from various news outlets. Ultimately, what I concluded through my research was that social networking contagion theory has an effect and will continue to have a major impact on social networks online. More and more people are engaged in networking simply through things like I mentioned, such as Facebook and Twitter. And ultimately, there are a lot more networks now and will continue to be more networks as technology continues to develop. It's important for communication practitioners to understand this and to continue to study things such as cause and effect as it pertains to social network contagion theory, so that practitioners can work to curtail messages specific to their audience and that will be the most effective in reaching them. All in all, I've had a tremendous 8 weeks with all of you. Thank you very much for all the discourse that we've had via our discussion boards and assignments. I have learned a lot. And for those of you that are going to be in the next session, I look forward to seeing you then and to continue to working with you. Best of luck. Take care.